Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am showing you a new Challenge a Crafty Friends card that I created together with Julia. So the images and stamps that I'm going to use are the Little Penguin Agenda and the Scripty Xmas from Mama Elephant, as well as the stitched Hillside backdrop portrait from Fawn. So maybe it's handy if you know what the challenge was. So the challenge was to create a night sky shaker Christmas card. So it's a bunch. So this frame is going to be my night sky. The penguins and the sentiments is the Christmas. And then of course I am adding lots of shaker materials to fit the brief. So first of all I'm going to start with my background. Here you can see a piece of Neenah 110 die cut, and the distress inks that I'm going to use are shaded lilac, that's for my snowy hills, and then Seedless preserves and chipped sapphire will be in my sky. So I have first masked off the edges of this die cut piece because there is that stitch detail and I really like it. So I wanted to reserve that and keep it white. As you know me by now, that's really something that I prefer doing, and therefore I just use purple tape. It's really easy to adhere and it's really easy to get off. So here I am going with that shaded lilac all over my hills, just blending that on top of the edges to get also the white of a snowy hill going, but then in the end it's a night sky, so I had to add some color as well. Next up I am splattering the color that I used also on the bottom. And now I am going up in the sky. So as you can see here, I first started with the shaded lilac as well, but in the end it hadn't that effect that I wanted, so here is my Seedless preserves already. And I'm just adding and adding layers and layers until I am happy with the blending that I got going on. And of course, as it is a night sky, I will also be adding some stars with some white gouache. And what I cannot forget lately is using some liquid Stardust from Fawn because it just finishes the card so beautifully. It's soft, it's shiny, it's subtle, but it's still there and I really love it. So I keep blending and blending. So I will put on some music because this background isn't finished yet. And after the background is finished, I will be back for the rest of the card. I am peeling off that purple tape because I'm really happy with what I got right now. And now you can see that wide edge that I kept by adding that purple tape, and I really like that. So as my background is finished, I am continuing with my images. So I stamped these out on Neenah 110 as well with Gina K Design Amalgam ink because I'm going to color with my Copic markers. So as usual, I will be putting the caps on the side. That is easy for reference, and I will also be listing all my supplies down below in my description box. For the coloring of these penguins, I am first starting with the darkest color, going to the mid-tone and then the lightest one, because these images are really tiny. So that's a way that I also decide how I am going to get those Copics on top of it. Just seeing whether the size lends itself to blending a lot or not. But yeah, I'm trying to keep the colors sort of in the same palette as my background, so I'm using some purples, which are truly representable for that shaded lilac from my Distress Oxide inks, in my opinion. So I really like this combo. So for the rest of the coloring, I will be putting on some music, and I will be back after all the coloring is done. As the coloring is finished right now, I am taking the matching dyes and I am die cutting all the images. Therefore, I'm using my purple tape to keep them in place while I run it through my die cutting machine. And I am trying to get the right dyes in place. Now that everything is die cut, I am continuing with stamping out my sentiments. As you know, therefore, I am using the Scripty Xmas from Mama Elephant. And I am going to stamp this out on my night sky. So I'm using the Merry Christmas, it's the one that I'm using the most from this stamp set. Just because it's also really easy and not that confusing. In Belgium, sometimes we see holiday as being a vacation and not really being that Christmassy event or anything like that. So that's why I prefer using Merry Christmas sentiments, just to get it clear that it's all about Christmas. I'm using my Versamark clear embossing ink to stamp this out, and I first used my powder tool, of course, to get that static away. And then I'm going to pour on my Nuvo embossing powder Glacier White. It's one of my favorite embossing powders because it melts really smoothly. So I'm taking a piece of scrap paper and I folded it in two so that I can use that crease to get my embossing powder back into my jar. The advantage about using a night sky with some stars and white embossing powder is actually that I'm trying to get those excess embossing powder away, but if that doesn't work out, it's just like the other stars. There is just a bit more white, just if you're wondering. I think that's really handy. But yeah, heating my heat gun, and then I am melting the sentiments. Now I can continue with placement, so I'm figuring out where every penguin is going to be. And then I am adhering as much of them as possible already. So now I'm going to create my shaker. Therefore I'm taking a piece of acetate and I'm going to trim that a bit so that it fit my card. Like this, and then I have to adhere this on the back of my panel. Realizing that this core tape was a bit too wide, I took another one. So in here I actually realized that I did something stupid. Normally I would first inlay my background piece to my card base, and this way I would be sure that placement is perfect. But because I already adhered my acetate, I didn't have that frame. So I die cut this one again, and now I'm using this white frame to get my night sky part of my background in the right place. I'm scoring my American size card base, laying down that piece, and I'm just going to adhere this completed frame with my background. But normally I would just inlay and then adhere my panel completely on there, but yeah. So to get my shaker material moving, I am using some foam strips from Diaries. It's really handy. They are really small, so it's really easy to get on frames and such. So what's important when you're creating a shaker card is that everything is closed, so there cannot be any gaps around your window, because that would mean that some of the shaker materials will be able to escape, and that is the last thing that you want. So I'm cleaning off my acetate. I don't know how it got dirty, but it did, so clean it off. And now I am just going to add some foam strips on the rest of my background as well, so that everything will be equally lifted. I'm taking out my shaker materials as well, and I am using lots of different ones that I haven't used so far. So there is the Nuvo. There are two jars. One is the hot pink stars and one is the candy pink hexagons. Then I have Diaries glitter crystals. They will show up later. I have some Twinklets diamond dust that I'm using. And then I also will be adding, but it's not showing yet, some little things from Lucy's cards, Itty Bitty Stars Silver. And this way I try to make some sort of mix that fitted everything. What was really funny about this card creation was that the big glitter that you cannot see yet, that I'm taking now, wasn't opened yet. So I am serious about this. It was filled up to the top, and I had to poke that part out so that I could pour some glitter on top of it. And actually I opened it there. You can already see there is a lot of glitter all over my place, but then I still had to fiddle with that cap that I had to pull down to be able to pour glitter, and I did that above the floor. I mean, come on, my whole floor was covered with glitter. I had to sit still, ask my boyfriend to come with the vacuum cleaner to get everything gone, but it was a mess. But on the other side, the whole jar was filled, so you get a lot for your money. But it was a mess. It was worth it, but a mess. So it took me a while to get that one going, and then I also got all the other ones, and then I could adhere my frame. So here I am removing the backings of my foam strips, and then I can adhere this on top of my American card base and start shaking to see if everything is working. And I must admit, I was really excited about my shaker. I really was. So I'm lining it up and then pressing it down. And there is my shaker. And I really like those Nuvos that I have put in there, that they actually really change colors. It's not that pink, but it takes on the light in the area and then it switches colors. So I really love it. And then the final penguins are still loose, so I had to adhere them as well. Therefore I'm taking some foam squares I am really loving this card. So this challenge was with Julia, and I will list her link down below as well, so that you can see what she created. It was one of her ideas, and I must admit that I was really struggling to get all the elements on the card, but I'm so glad that I created this one. So, shaking like a crazy person. And then I am just adding some final details, some glossy accents from Ranger onto my balloons. I really like that. I will also be adding some stickers. That I really like to add on my heads of the penguins and other Christmassy critters, and then my card is finished. So I really hope that you like this card design, the concept, the shaker materials that I used. If you have any questions, you can always leave them down below. I would love to read them, and I'm so grateful for you all to stop by, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!